Hey, and welcome to the Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt, that fine gentleman over there. The one, the only, always the incomparable Dan Rubenstein, sir. How was your week 7?
It was good. It was good. I snacked a little bit too much. I ate well for dinner. Played tennis in the morning, but mostly I'm just here to complain about referees for an hour and a half. Is that what people want from us? Is that what people actually want from the college football conversation? To complain about referees and say, this is the discussion that must be had? I say no. That's all.
It is the one unifying thread among all things college football.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the refereeing.
Yeah. So let's just move past it, right? If we can all agree on that, right? If that's like our common denominator, this is old math, right? When you're crossing things out and carrying fours, I don't understand new math yet. But if that's the common denominator, if we can all agree on that, let's just slash it out and talk about the actual football at hand. How about that?
Let's talk about an amazing week 7 of college football. It lived up to the billing. You know, we tried to nickname it every which way. It didn't need a nickname.
No.
This was just college football, the essence of college football, really what makes it special and important to us and fun to talk about as often as we do. The new Verballer Top 10 poll dropped earlier today.
Really?
As of about 9 a.m. Eastern time, as it always does. You can vote at verballers.com if you are ever so inclined. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan moving up to 3. Tennessee jumping all the way up to number 4, followed by Clemson at 5. Bama, by virtue of their loss, dropping down to 6, trailed by Ole Miss, and then a contingent of newcomers in our top 10. TCU, UCLA, and your Oregon Ducks. That is your 1 through 10. We have a lot to get into today, Dan. What were your main takeaways? I feel like we got to start there. There's just so much that happened in week 7. It's always hard to paint with a broad brush, but high-level takeaways. How do you feel coming out of week 7?
More knowledgeable, which some might argue I could only go up from wherever I am in terms of my knowledge base about the sport at any given moment. But no, I think there's a good amount of knowledge that we have ascertained. Big boy
Good word.
Ascertained 7 weeks into the season, right? We see flaws. We see depth tested. We see the team's metal. That's I don't know how to spell it. METTLE.
METTLE.
Yeah, we see metal tested at the end of games. We see new coaches sort of coming into their own or struggling into their own. We see flaws that are yet to be covered up or yet to be improved upon. And this isn't from a wagering perspective, and it's not even from a game picking perspective. But it's nice to know because so much of this in the early going and in the off season is like, well, maybe if this happens, well, maybe if they can stay healthy, maybe if this guy keeps evolving or this coach can replicate what he did at this other place, maybe there's something there. And so now we kind of have a viewpoint of what is and isn't there, which whether it's, the huge games in the SEC, the late night USC, Utah, the pretty entertaining and terrific day in the Big 12, the weird day in the ACC, G5 everywhere was unexpected. There is that knowledge base that is, I think we can lock in on a lot more things, which I'm excited about.
I am too. And look, how often have we done this show on a Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
This is our 15th season of doing this here podcast.
Is that true? Jeez.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Oh.
How many weekends have come and gone? We're going into it, we thought it was going to be a lot better than it ended up being. I would say 80% of the time, that is what happens.
Sure.
And in very few of those instances, like 5% of the time, do you come out Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Monday, saying, wow, that really exceeded expectations. Maybe like 5%. This is one of those 5%. So I was entertained to the extent that we had all of these matchups we were looking forward to, and we can definitively say that many of the teams that we have been following, trying to get a read on, trying to get more information on, many of those teams were indeed up to the challenge in week 7. And that's what made things so special and so fun to watch. Let's get into your week 7 reverbs.
Can I jump on that really, really quick before you edit this out, Ty? Before you edit this out, think about how much of a pro Ty is when he says he was entertained by week 7 and watched Drew Pine and Sean Clifford try to
Let's
operate
get
offenses.
into your week.
What a pro!
7 reverbs. Have a listen.
Just calling in because we have a beautiful college football Saturday. There are 6 ranked matchups for the first time in 5 years, and I have a fall wedding to go to. #StopFallWedding. Stay solid.
This is Zach from Philadelphia.
This is Allison from North Carolina.
Hi, this is Phil from upstate South Carolina. I know that the Wolverines are hosting Penn State for dinner tonight, and I was wondering how you preferred us to serve up your crock-potted Nittany Lion.
Hey Ty, it's your friend here, TCU. I don't know what you're up to these days, but if you're interested in a real program with real wins, give us a call.
We're going to need to come up with a new bowl game for Michigan and Ole Miss this season. I'm thinking the Overrated Bowl, presented by Hamilton, the Broadway musical.
It's getting a little too Brocktobery in Austin this week. That's why you got to win your clunkers. Hook 'em, baby.
Have you or someone you love been harmed by Big 12 officiating? If so, please contact our toll-free hotline to find out your options on getting to bowl eligibility.
Miami won, I think. I still don't know. Go Cane.
I'm currently watching my California Golden Bears play Colorado, which makes me question my existence as a college football fan.
We got breaking news coming out of the Pac-12. It looks like Colorado, yes, it is. In fact, Colorado has won. Go Bucks.
Tulane gets to 6-1, our best record since 1998. Rank Tulane, you cowards. Roll wave.
A lot of people will tell you about Tennessee beating Alabama in a shootout or TCU storming back to beat Oklahoma State, but I'm the only one who will tell you that Georgia Southern finally ended the win streak of JMU. Hail Southern!
Brian Kelly spent 3 hours looking like his teenage son just told him he crashed his car. Also, thanks ESPN for making me hate Tom Petty.
I want to know why the Florida Gators were somehow favorites over my OSU Tigers. The Florida Gators, who have a middle school defense, didn't check out before the game, didn't check out after the game. Go Tigers.
I know you guys get a lot of extra phone calls when your teams lose, and normally that'd be a really sad thing. But come on, man. Notre Dame losing to Stanford?
I'm just calling to check and see if Ty gets paid to make 2 reaction videos when Notre Dame and Penn State get embarrassed on the same day.
Oh, Link, how the turns have tables. Boomer Sooner.
That's one of the best damn games I've ever seen in my life. Rocky Top is blasting at a bar in Atlanta. Let's go Vols.
It's been 15 years. My father and I both cried. It was amazing. Please join me in saying it's great to beat a Tennessee Vol.
So when Georgia beats Tennessee and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, does that mean Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee make the playoffs?
Hi, my name's Hadley. Hi, my name's Cullen. And our parents have talked about undefeated Syracuse.
Ooh.
Undefeated Syracuse. Good parenting.
Yeah,
Good
buddy.
Parenting. Great batch of calls. Thank you to one and all. Thanks, of course, to our guy Shay for putting together a great variety of calls. We had people calling in from G5 to, obviously crying as a result of the big Tennessee win over Alabama. Why don't we start there? Why don't we start with Tennessee? 52, Alabama to 49, Dan. This game had everything you could want from a college football game. It was an incredible watching experience. You had the big plays. You had back and forth scoring. You had odd circumstances, like when they go to the video review to figure out what down it is. Never saw that one before. Never saw.
Oh, they
saw
screwed that
before.
up in an Oregon Wazoo game like 3 weeks ago, but yeah.
Never saw that one before. And then, of course, you have the game-winning kick that wasn't blocked but came out like a knuckleball and still went through from 40 yards away. Like you or I kicked it, but with more power.
Yes.
So truly ran the gamut of college football emotion. That, of course, is on top of decades of history between these two programs, not the least of which is the last 15 years, which have not been too kind to Tennessee. They tore down the goalposts. My understanding is they threw them in the Tennessee River afterwards.
Of course.
It seems like it was quite a night in Knoxville, Tennessee, Dan. I don't even know where to start with this game. Where do you want to start with this game?
The beginning? We can start at the beginning. Tennessee without its best receiver and Cedric Tillman does not matter. Jalen Hyatt was incredible. Hendon Hooker was largely incredible. A couple mistakes here and there, but just proving on the biggest possible stage for Tennessee at home against Alabama in October that he deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. He looked like the more confident quarterback going downfield, trusting his line, stepping into the pocket. And Bryce Young's game is different, right? He's much more of an improviser. But Hendon Hooker and that ability to take the top off of the Alabama defense, it's going to be a tough Monday in that DB's room for Alabama. To weather the Alabama pass rush, of course, with Dallas Turner and Will Anderson is incredible. I just came away flat out impressed with Tennessee's ability to jump out to the lead, to ultimately withstand the inevitable Bama chargeback.
That's right. And we knew that was coming, right?
We knew it was coming.
We knew that was coming.
And whatever it was with the muff punts, with the turnovers, obviously the scoop and score for Alabama, and the back and forth nature of the game late, and obviously some dubious at best refereeing. Of course, everybody can say it. Don't worry about it. Everybody can say it. Refereeing affects moments, but not necessarily full game outcomes. Everybody has opportunities. There are big moments that can be affected by it. But both of these teams had shots, and Will Reichert, of course, misses. Was it a 50-yard attempt?
Yeah.
In the waning seconds, and then Tennessee. The pass to Brew McCoy. That's one of my favorite just physical plays in the sport, when a ball goes up and basically both the DB and receiver kind of have like a 52 to 48 claim on the ball, and the receiver comes down with it with a thud. Everybody's all right. And it's one of those like great literal crescendo moments as they both go up and high point the ball. And so Brew McCoy comes down with the incredible catch late over the middle. And for that kick to go in with the path of the ball and the spinning of the ball looking like, my best approximation is like if you gave an orangutan like a ninja throwing star. This is what it would look like as he tried to hit a target 14 feet away.
Bad. It looked like if you or I kicked it.
Yeah.
We would have that spin on our kick.
Knuckleballs are intentional, right? So the knuckleball quality to the path. So that was an incredible moment. And then Tennessee storming the field, the cigar smoke, everything, Peyton Manning in the house. I think he was the game day guest picker.
Yep.
But the scene that unfolded, and I'm sure for Alabama it was horrible, but the scene that unfolded, the streak being what it was, like 15 years or whatever, and then coming in that moment, like exceeding expectations, both in terms of performance, wins, everything. It's nothing short of electrifying. I loved it.
It was a great moment for Tennessee. Not as much so for an Alabama fan, but Tennessee certainly has been waiting for a good long time. You mentioned Jalen Hyatt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cedric Tillman was out. Jalen Hyatt caught 6 balls for 207 yards. 5 of those catches went for touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he was clearly a big-time playmaker, one that Hendon Hooker needed in this game. And as I said at the top, so much we have these weeks like this where we're wondering, can teams match up? Will this matchup that appears like it'll be fun on paper actually get there? This was one where Tennessee clearly came out of the gates hot. Tennessee clearly had what it took offensively to match up with Alabama. And I think just because we saw this performance from them now, we know they're capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put the cart too much before the horse, but it does change the calculus in the SEC a great deal. To know that Tennessee's got a game like this in them, I don't know if they've got more. We know the offense is pretty dang good. We know it's going to be tough to outscore them, but you start thinking, all right, I don't know if Tennessee's good enough to rip through the rest of its schedule without losing a dumb one, but I would have to imagine that when they play against Georgia, it's a little bit more interesting now than it seemed a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Right? The SEC West, we saw what Ole Miss did on the ground. Ole Miss has Bama coming up pretty soon. The SEC West is slowly taking shape in maybe a different way than the SEC East. It just makes the conversation a lot different now in the SEC in a way that I feel like we have not really felt in quite some time in the SEC. It's always just been Bama and then some second fiddle. And I hate to put Georgia in that category because Georgia beat him in the SEC title game and won the national championship last year.
Well, Georgia didn't beat him in the SEC title game, but yeah. Alabama
Georgia made it to the SEC title game and then obviously beat them in the national championship, excuse me.
Yeah.
But my only point is just that it's been a while since we had another team that we could really worry about in the SEC.
Over the course of time, right? Consistently over
the course
years.
of time. Over the course of time. Yeah.
For sure.
And this, to me, I think makes it a much different conversation now moving forward the second half of the season. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Tennessee is in still for a challenge because they have Kentucky and Georgia in back-to-back weeks, I believe, late October, early November. They're pretty thin health-wise on defense. This is still a very early time in Josh Heupel's tenure, obviously taking over with not a lot on that roster. So in terms of Tennessee consistently competing at the top of the conference at full health and fully weaponized and operational, absolutely. But that's not the reality of late October, November. And so we'll see what happens against Georgia and Kentucky, but they're going to eventually, to me, it's a no-brainer that they're going to get to a really interesting place in terms of depth on that roster. But I think we should just celebrate this moment because
let's celebrate it.
It was
Let's
incredible.
celebrate it.
Yeah. For Hendon Hooker, by the way, who's in his 14th year as a college football player, by the way, recruited by Mark Helfrich 3 coaches ago at Oregon, lost the job to Joe Milton. He himself, Hendon Hooker, said he really had a tough time figuring out the rhythm of that, fast-paced offense and really struggled with it. And to come into his own in this way is just, it's a sensational story.
He looks really good. Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young in this game were almost equally as incredible. Different styles of play, but as a fan of a team in the NFL, i.e. the New York Giants, who very clearly need a quarterback of the future, I would take either one of them. I'd probably kill for Bryce Young.
Sure.
Bryce Young he's just different when he's out there and has a line in front of him. Not to say the Giants can give him that line, but this is not an NFL show. We'll see. Big win for Tennessee, 52-49. Next 3 games for Bama are very interesting. Mississippi State, at LSU, and at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from any of those teams at any given time after Mississippi State's performance against Kentucky, after LSU's performance sometimes, against Tennessee, but SEC is fascinating. Absolutely.
Dan, there are few things in life that are more frustrating than knowing exactly what is coming and being completely unable to stop it.
Yeah.
Penn State had a bye week to prepare for this Michigan ground assault. They knew it existed. They knew it would be the focal point.
Shake and Blake, are you okay with that?
Whatever. They knew what was coming and they couldn't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that they were close to stopping it. They were nowhere near it. Right. Completely unable to stop what Michigan was serving up. Michigan did not have to punt the entire game, Dan, which is an incredible stat that blows your mind. But if you watch the game, it was truly deserved by Michigan. There were no smoke and mirrors here. There were no refereeing oddities.
Right.
There's no ambiguity. I don't know how else to describe this other than...
Guess who just got
murdered? That's it. We have a sound for it. We don't even need to do the recap of this. 418 yards on the ground for Michigan. That's about 7.5 per carry.
Mm-hmm.
They held the ball for nearly 42 minutes. If anything, 41-17 does not do this one justice because Penn State was genuinely lucky to have any points at all. 17 points, they were real lucky. Real lucky to have 17 points in this game. And Michigan was unlucky to not have 60 with the way they played here.
Yeah.
They drubbed them. This game was not even close. So I don't know what the hell Penn State was doing on its bye week to try and prep for this game. Frankly, I don't know if it mattered because I think Michigan is just that much better. Didn't matter who was playing quarterback for Penn State. Didn't matter what their game plan was on offense, even what their game plan was on defense. Michigan, as all the numbers told us before the game, and literally every number said that Michigan was significantly better than Penn State.
Yeah.
And I threw that out the window. Dan.
Nearly every podcast host on this show tried to assert that very thing.
I threw it out the window in the name of We Are Penn State.
Yeah.
And Penn State now has a loss. They lost by 24. It felt a hell of a lot worse.
I did my best, right? Sometimes you try to do everything you can to convince somebody, like, look, they haven't had a consistent offensive line in 27 years. Sean Clifford's still the quarterback. They're not great on the road. They're playing a good team on the road in a tough place to play. So Penn State is a good team when they're playing against a team that's clearly not as good. And that's fine. That'll get you 8 wins.
That is why people
often.
download this show, for that level of analysis. Thank you.
Well, Penn State can't beat comparable teams. Like, in terms of a talent level, in terms of a moment, like, if Penn State has a better offensive line and a better quarterback, and maybe a better offensive brain trust, they have the talent. It's not like they were pushed around using 5'8", 138 pounds defensive tackles. They have good players. They consistently develop NFL players, especially on defense. But it was more of the same. They couldn't stay on the field on offense. Michigan just decided to 28 first downs in this game. Like, is there an actual limit to how long the Penn State defense can stay on this field?
The limit does not
like
exist.
The limit?
The limit does not exist.
The limit does not exist. Thank you, Katie.
It's like a pitch count in Little League or something to keep them safe.
At one point, Penn State had 1 first down to Michigan's 13, but yet was winning the game 14-13 thanks to a tipped pick 6 and a long Sean Clifford run that set up a touchdown. Look, Penn State's offense scored fewer points against Michigan than Iowa's did. 17 points thanks to that pick 6. Got them to 17, so 10 points. Penn State offense. And look, Michigan, this is exactly what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to play that bully ball. He wants to run for 300 to 400 yards every week. Who doesn't? J.J. McCarthy gives them an element. He wasn't incredible throwing the ball downfield, but certainly made enough plays.
What's interesting about the way they're using J.J. McCarthy is it's exactly the way they use Cade McNamara. It's just he's a better runner when he has to, and they can do a few different kinds of concepts with him that makes the offense a little bit more multidimensional.
I also think that those like cross field throws that need to be thrown hard and with pinpoint accuracy. I think JJ McCarthy is a lot more likely to complete that on 3rd and 13.
Oh, he's better.
Yeah.
He's better, but they don't use him demonstrably different than they did Cade McNamara.
Blake Corum's incredible. The offensive line was really, really good. Donovan Edwards was terrific. The pass rush was really, really good and overwhelmed Penn State's offensive line. I mean, the fact of the matter is we have this conversation most years about Penn State, and they disappoint.
Penn State is 0-10 versus top 10 teams since 2016.
The stat, what was the stat? They haven't beaten an AP top 5 team, since like 1994.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sorry, Penn State's in the wrong conversations every year. Sorry, they just are.
Well, this was not a great conversation for Penn State. Penn State was clearly outclassed in this matchup.
Yeah.
Sean Clifford apparently did something to his right shoulder and was in the tent for a while.
Saw that.
I didn't see it. Nope, nobody saw it. I know they talked about it on the broadcast. But Drew Aller came in when Penn State was down 17. It's not like they were trying to preserve his red shirt to begin with, but by virtue of him playing, now that red shirt is officially burnt.
Yeah.
I am curious to see if he is the guy now moving forward. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be the guy moving forward. I know many have written the article at this point that you only have a finite number of games that you can count on with a quarterback of that caliber, and you don't want those games on the bench. So now that they've got the loss out of their system, clearly with the offense sputtering a bit, I think now would be the time to go to Aller if they want to make that move. I will believe it when I see it with James Franklin, but it seems like now would be the move to do that. Michigan on a bye next week. Penn State, meanwhile, this was like the first of their big 3-game stretch that was going to define their season for us.
Mm-hmm.
The make or break streak of Michigan, Minnesota next week, which is a different game now with Tanner Morgan and his status up in the air. And of course, Ohio State the week thereafter. So we will talk more about these teams for sure moving forward. But right now, man, Michigan just riding luxury on the Underthink Express, Dan.
Yeah, I'd be very careful still though with Drew Aller. I know we're spending more time on the loser in this game than the victor, but it can be pretty harmful to put a quarterback before he's ready in a Penn State offense of this caliber, right? You don't want to affect him emotionally, spiritually, physically in that way before he's ready. So yeah, we'll see. Where are we going next?
TCU 43, Oklahoma State 40, double OT. So Pokes jump out to a 24-7 lead in the second quarter. From that point forward, they only managed 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Final 40 minutes, 2 field goals.
Incredible kicker. Oklahoma State very much has an incredible kicker.
Incredible kicker.
But you need more. Yeah.
You need more. And Mike Gundy said in the postgame, right, we were reading the comments as they were coming through on Discord about Mike Gundy's going to get conservative here. It's a thing that he does. It happens with Oklahoma State. He called it out. He's like, we weren't trying to be conservative, but it did end up feeling that way as TCU really held them down and eventually was able to rally and win. I think TCU's defense deserves a lot of credit here. You look at the scoreboard, it doesn't jump out at you as any kind of defensive master class, but the corners really took away the outside passing game. They neutralized Braden Johnson and Bryson Green. They also did a really good job playing the run. They held the Pokes to like 3.5 a carry. So they were able to take away big chunks of that offense. And, we just continue to see this exciting trend at TCU, which is let's get the ball to our best players.
Yes.
Let's find a way to do it. Let's do more of that they have not done for years on end now. Let's get the ball to Quentin Johnston, who had another monster game for the second straight week. Let's put Max Duggan in positions to win. Let's hand the ball off in proper situations where we can get hard yards. Again, we talk a lot about underthink express. It just seems like TCU is getting the ball to the right guys at the right time. And obviously it helps when you play some defense here in a big moment.
Yeah, it's that, I don't know exactly how it's defined, if it's the 3-2-6 or 3-3-5, that it's, I think the Tulsa coordinator, Joe Gillespie, was the guy who Sonny Dykes hired. But obviously the early returns are very promising. It can be a very confusing defense to play against. We saw Spencer Sanders throw, I would say, a pick at an inopportune time, to say the least. But he still had a pretty decent game. I know he came into the game, there were stories about how he was a little bit shaken up or beat up ahead of the TCU game. But honestly, you jump out to that kind of lead, the expectation is that you keep evolving, you keep scoring. And we know that even last year, it was Oklahoma State starting off slow and then really pouring it on, especially on defense as they figured out teams. It seems that's sort of going the opposite direction right now with Oklahoma State, with seeing how teams sometimes have been able to come back this year. I think the story is TCU. The story is TCU with Max Duggan not winning that job. I know I'm harping on that, but finding Quentin Johnston, trusting Kendre Miller, and not trying to sort of outplay himself, right? Happy to take the open crossing route, happy to take the check down, happy to execute the play as scripted and not, improvise too much. And TCU stayed patient. They crawled back into this game, especially on their home field. It was a cool scene to win the game in OT. I know there was some question about, should Oklahoma State have gone for 2 when they had the opportunity to put the game away. They haven't been good in the red zone this year. Weirdly enough, even with the experience of Spencer Sanders and his ability as a playmaker, they have not been especially dependable in the red zone in terms of turning, the field position into touchdowns. So that is a decision I guess we can talk about another time. I know you like to harp on that sometimes when teams have that opportunity, a la Brian Harsin. But Oklahoma State had done enough on offense where you're like, all right, let's see what happens here. But they get that brutal holding penalty in overtime. And, there are a lot of ways to lose a game in overtime. And it's sort of make or break with that 2-yard conversion opportunity, the 2-pointer. So I think the story here is TCU as they remain against not all odds, but against what I saw as an undefeated team in mid-October after last year. So I come away very, very impressed with the Frogs.
A dream start.
Totally.
To the Sonny Dykes era, 6-0. The only undefeated team left, right, in the Big 12.
I believe so.
Incredible. Let's go over to Utah USC, the nightcap. Oh, baby. 43-42 is your final. Utah took the lead for the very first time with 48 seconds left in the game. Cam Rising darted his way into the end zone and then did it again to get a 2-point conversion. Kyle Whittingham putting his money where his mouth is and saying we're going for 2 in the win at home.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, this game felt dead even. This is a game to me that I looked at the score afterwards, then I went back and watched it this morning. It felt dead even to me. Even the stats look relatively even. The big question that we have been asking about Utah, and I think the big concern, especially in a game like this, is around playmaking.
Sure.
Who are the gravitational players? Brant Keithy's out. What are they going to do other than Cam Rising? to find a way to put points on the board, to score, to go pound for pound with a team like USC. Allow me to present Dalton Kincaid.
Please do.
I don't know if they just forged this guy out of Mount Doom or where he came from, but holy crap, 16 catches, 234 yards, and a touchdown. The big 6'4" tight end out of Nevada, the state, not the college. He was uncoverable for a pretty big swath of this game on the USC side. They just had no answer for him. A lot of offense here, as you might expect from looking at the score. Caleb Williams remains incredible. I don't know if you saw that one play down at his old goal line where he's I thought that was a surefire safety, and somehow he wriggles his way out of it and, runs for a first down.
May have been a hold in there, but continue.
Might have been a hold. Might have been a little bit of a hold, but nonetheless, an incredible individual effort from Caleb Williams, and we continue to see that as his game evolves. The Utah offense with Cam Rising also evolved in its own way and got better, I think, as the game wore on. So this was really a case of early on it feeling like USC had the advantage, but as the game progressed, it just felt like Utah was putting things together more and more often. And eventually they get the dub here. Like I said, they didn't grab the lead until very late in this one. And I admire going for two. You know where I stand on going for two when you got the chance to.
I totally agree, especially at home in that moment with the energy, with the juice behind the Utes at that moment. This game was incredible. I think game. As terrific as Dalton Kincaid was, the high-level ability of Caleb Williams, when he is truly feeling himself, is sensational TV. I don't know how to describe the Caleb Williams experience because we've only had a handful of players like him ever in the sport. And so, yes, he has an incredible mind at head coach offensively. Yes, he has Mario Williams and Jordan Addison and a seasoned running back in Travis Dye who was getting anything and everything. Everybody was on this USC offense early on. At one point, they were up 14-0, 21-7 at like 13 yards per play. Hard to win a game allowing 13 yards per play. The problem with USC, obviously, is their own defense's ability to get stops, especially allowing what they did on the ground at times, allowing Dalton Kincaid. They could not figure out any sort of combination of safeties or linebackers or corners or whatever to throw at or in front of or draped on Dalton Kincaid.
No, they had no answer for him. None.
Cam Rising was great. Cam Rising, especially late, making the plays, calling his own number or calling his number, whatever. Look, there were some, the refereeing in this game was atrocious. It was. You can say both ways, but like USC, it was a pretty brutal, I think it was roughing the passer that was called targeting, but the targeting was brought back. That extended a Utah drive. It was horrific. It was a very bad call. And Pac-12 refs are, to me, clearly the worst in the sport, but everybody thinks their own conference's refs are the worst. I get that too. It was bad. The weird situation at the end, I don't think I knew that rule with the interception at the end, right? That you can just, even if your team is penalized, you can take swaths of time off of the clock after your team interferes with a pass and you decide to run it back. All of those seconds count. But weirdly, seconds were re-added because of an inadvertent whistle that happened, apparently, hypothetically, in the middle of that play that gave USC a few extra seconds. But, Utah stiffened up and closed out the game. It was so arrhythmic at times because of all of the flags. It was not an especially fun watch outside of the actual football because it was just so start and stop and reviews and referees huddling up to discuss yet another penalty. And it was that element of it was a bummer. But I don't know how you come away from this game anything but impressed with what USC's ceiling is on offense, what Utah's ability to fight back look like, USC's own deficiencies on defense. Just not able to get stops when they needed them, especially in the red zone, other than that forced fumble, which of course they were able to do.
Yeah,
of course they were able to get a crucial fumble in the red zone. I said it before the game, and I'm going to stand by it right now. Into the game, I said, I think USC's better. I think they're a better team. I think we're going to think that they're a better team after the season. But I think Utah wins. And that was on display. I'm a blind squirrel. Get a nut every once in a while. It was such good TV despite the arrhythmic nature of the game. And to see Caleb Williams choked up, to see the Utah players choked up, of course, wearing their fallen teammates on their helmets.
Yeah.
Really cool helmets. A lot of emotion in this game, and sort of what the sport is all about. That's sort of the heavyweight brawl in the middle of the night. No matter what Fox tries to do with putting games on at 7 a.m., it's a much better experience. It's a much better product with these big moments under the lights. So, yeah, crazy fun watch.
Crazy fun watch. I think you nailed it with USC. USC, by the way, just looking ahead a little bit here, not too much of the cart before the horse, but Arizona, Cal, Colorado, and then to close out its season, UCLA and Notre Dame.
UCLA is tough.
UCLA is tough, and I suppose they could lose that one. They're not losing to this version of Notre Dame.
They've been doing that recently, losing to UCLA.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. They're not losing to this version of Notre Dame, and I don't think they're losing to any of the others. So worst case scenario for USC, I'm feeling 10-2.
You're feeling 10-2. Okay.
Worst case scenario.
Okay.
But both teams impressed. This was a fun game in the middle of the night, as you mentioned. Let's go around college football. Let's cover some of the other conference action. We had a bunch of teams on bye this week.
Yep.
Clemson 34, Florida State 28. We had Syracuse, perhaps as you inferred from the call, implied from the call.
Inferred.
6-0. Beating NC State by a 24-9 margin. North Carolina, oh my God. North Carolina beats Duke 38-35, and Miami wins 20-14 over Virginia Tech. So the Clemson game.
Yeah.
This one was 34-14.
Correct.
Start of the fourth quarter. Florida State gave itself a chance at an onside kick with about 2 minutes left. I thought they had the right idea trying to be aggressive in this game. They went forward on fourth down a bunch of times, only got it once. But, it wasn't enough to overcome DJU, who I thought looked pretty solid.
I thought he was good. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't have like a great stat line with like 400 yards passing, but was very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Looked good doing so. This is also the kind of game I've been waiting for out of Will Shipley, who had something like 240 yards, somewhere thereabouts, in all-purpose yardage, really showcase
game.
What he brings to the equation here for Clemson. So I thought all around a really, really solid effort from the Tigers, despite the fact that Florida State sort of made a late run at this.
Yeah, it's fits and starts for Florida State, right? They open up strong. They go up, 14-7 in this game?
Yeah.
And they were running the ball really well. Trey Benson ran really hard. The Oregon transfer. Johnny Wilson made plays. He didn't also struggle at moments as well. I thought Jordan Travis did a good job, by and large, against a tough Clemson defense. The big deal was that it was just like an explosive stretch for Clemson. Dabo talks about the middle eight, right? The 4 minutes before and after halftime. And between the fumble and the field goal and the touchdown, halftime, Florida State does nothing. Clemson scores again. And then suddenly a tight back and forth game gets quickly out of hand, or at least in that moment out of hand. And so it's that explosive stretch that Clemson is getting back to. It's sort of like what you did before playing pickleball this weekend, Ty. That explosive stretch that's needed.
I'm sore as hell. I am sore as hell. I played with a group of seniors. I'm sore as hell.
It's great.
Podcasting did not prepare me accordingly. Continue.
No, but this is what good teams do. It's especially what good teams do when they're able to find new players that are able to shine. Clemson's turning to the tight end position, of course, more. Davis Allen is the guy who had that sort of leaky sideline catch. It was great. DJ read it, nailed him, touchdown. Will Shipley was bursting through. It was great. It was everything that you want from a Clemson team that doesn't necessarily have the offensive line at all times, that doesn't necessarily have the gravitational receivers, that doesn't necessarily have the secondary. There isn't a clear Isaiah Simmons type roaming around this Clemson defense, and yet they're still winning these big games in pseudo rivalry spots on the road. Great for Clemson.
Clemson's next game is against Syracuse.
Yeah,
Syracuse
Where
is
is
6-0. The game is in Clemson.
Okay.
So, Syracuse won at home. JMA Wireless Dome, where teams go to die. Devin Leary, it was announced in the pregame, is out for the rest of the year, which is a huge freaking bummer.
Yep.
For NC State. He's going to have surgery. He's done, which means we're going to see Jack Chambers, I'm assuming, the rest of the way. I didn't think he was that bad.
Okay.
I thought he was fine in this game. He's not Devin Leary, though. He's not Devin Leary. But this is an offense that even struggled with Devin Leary.
I was going to say, Devin Leary might not be Devin Leary. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's, you got to have to take it for what it is. The Syracuse defense remains pretty solid. I'm not going to act like they've played the best offenses in the world, but the defense has only given up more than 20 points once so far this season. The offense is playing well enough to win these games. There is no reason the rest of the way that we shouldn't be excited about Syracuse, because we want to talk a lot about Kansas and the story that Kansas has been. We want to talk a lot about, any number of other basketball schools, be it Arizona or Duke, and what some of those programs have put together. It wasn't all that long ago that you and I were dunking on Syracuse pretty hard in the preseason. There wasn't a lot here to suggest that we would have.
Not this preseason.
Not this preseason.
Yeah.
There was not a whole lot here to suggest that this version, this
Right.
iteration of Syracuse was going to start undefeated. But Syracuse is undefeated, Dan.
Syracuse is undefeated. The schedule has not been crazy challenging. I mean, NC State should have been a challenging moment on their schedule, but of course, Jack Chambers is still a downgrade from Devin Leary, to say the least.
Yes.
Look, they were able to win a weird game against Purdue. We had another game yesterday with, much to your chagrin and disappointment, Garrett Schrader made winning plays, found a Rondé Gadsden.
Listen, I have nothing against Garrett Schrader.
It sounds like you do.
I have nothing against Garrett Schrader. But I do have questions about Garrett Schrader throwing the football. If you watch the full game, you probably also have questions about Garrett Schrader.
Of course.
And some of his decision-making when he throws the football. That's all I'm going to say.
Undefeated. Dubs. W's, Ty. That's one of my favorite things is coaches or announcers, older announcers especially, the only stat that matters
is the dub.
Is the win. Wins and losses or the final score. Okay. Garrett Schrader makes winning plays and makes less than winning plays. And Sean Tucker largely makes winning plays. And so this team it's a more well-rounded team than just Sean Tucker and an unorthodox challenging defense, which is why Syracuse is again bowl eligible and is going to win more games, plural, even if they don't beat Clemson.
Very quickly on those other two games that I mentioned.
Yes.
It came down to the wire in the Duke-UNC game. I had locked up North Carolina. Yeah, but North Carolina needed a late pass from Drake May to Antoine Green to get the dub, the only stat that matters in this rivalry matchup. Drake May will take North Carolina as far as he is physically able to do. That's not English, but I kind of don't know what to say about him at this point. North Carolina is so married to the success at this point of Drake May that they will go as far as he can take them. The defense is still kind of non-existent, but Drake May is really freaking good.
It was kind of a squat PR Saturday. How much can you load up on your shoulders to carry your team to hopefully winning this game? Whether it was Cam Rising and I guess Dalton Kincaid, whether it was, Trey Palmer for Nebraska coming up just short, whether it was, and we'll get there, whether it was Drake May, whether it was any of these guys putting up cartoonish numbers, Jalen Hyatt being this unbelievable gravitational player, putting basically the scoreboard on his back along with the knuckle kick at the end. Drake May doing what he did, and Riley Leonard attempting to win this game, doing what he did, both with his feet and with his arm. I mean, arguably Riley Leonard got more exercise than anybody in the sport yesterday. Duke did basically everything they could do, right? This season is an overwhelming success for Mike Elko and the Blue Devils. It just means a little bit less when you're not able to close out North Carolina the way Duke probably should have. But good for Tar Heels, good for Drake May. Still, any given quarter, you could have any given team from this North Carolina team. Yeah.
The only other thing I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech.
Oh my
two
God.
fourth quarter touchdowns to erase a seemingly easy cover for the Miami Hurricanes, who were favored by about, I think, 7.5.
What was the quarter scoring breakdown for Miami? Was it progressively it was 10-7, 3-0, and then Mario Cristobal after the game? Again, I am a biased narrator here, but I have heard these speeches before. Just talking about all of the injured players. Guess what? Every year there was a bajillion injuries for Oregon. Get used to this, Miami. Get used to not covering wins that feel like losses, But you're like, well, these younger players started showing out, and then they're going to get hurt. So that's the Mario Cristobal experience, as I understood it to be as an Oregon fan. And for better or worse, get that win. Get that win, Miami, and you did.
Over in the Big 12, we had Oklahoma 52, Kansas 42. We had Texas 24, Iowa State 21. We had West Virginia knocking off Baylor on Thursday night by a 43-40 score.
Yeah.
So a bunch of really close games here.
Incredible
bunch of fun games.
Weekend, week 7 for the Big 12.
Absolutely. So on the Oklahoma side, they had 700 yards of offense.
You did have this.
I did have this. I didn't have 700 yards of offense.
No.
I knew Kansas's defense was a little suspect, but 700 yards is even a bit much for them. 403 yards on the golden arm of Dylan Gabriel, who was back and healthy and looked pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
The Oklahoma offense, as you might expect, met minimal resistance here. It felt like every time I looked at the TV, somebody was streaking down the field. My sense here is that it could have been worse for Kansas because Oklahoma turned it over 3 times. There was also a goal line stand, I believe, at the end of the first half. So Oklahoma, at least offensively, was really humming here. They had enough stops on defense to get separation. Not like a great defensive showing by any stretch. Jason Bean did get the start for Kansas because of that Jalen Daniels injury. I don't think Jalen Daniels being there would have made a whole world of difference, but a lot of points. Not an unexpected result here. Kansas, by the way, almost did the backdoor cover thing.
Yes,
here.
they did. They were right there. They lost by 10 in a 9-point spread game.
That's right.
Yeah.
They tried ever so hard to make this one interesting for the bettors out there, but Oklahoma wins by 10. I want to get your take on the Texas game.
Okay, quickly with the Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
What a difference a quarterback makes. Dylan Gabriel. CJ Colden, if you didn't see the interception of the year, maybe you should look that up because he leapt up about 47 feet in the air and tipped the ball to himself as he came down and snagged it. That was an incredible moment for Oklahoma. And yes, you're right. I think the 700-yard thing, I think leaving the offense in as long as they did, I think throwing it for as long as they did, I think it was to send a message. Whether it's to send a message to the Big 12, whether it's to send a message internally, whether it's to send a message to recruits, it's that Oklahoma's not going away into this cold, dark night.
They needed the neck crack. That's what they needed.
They needed the neck. There it is. They needed the neck crack, and I don't take anything away from Kansas, even though they wouldn't have won this game with Jalen Daniels, excuse me. Really, really great performance from Oklahoma. And a sorely needed one at that. Okay, Texas, Iowa State.
This game was a lot closer than we thought. At one point in the week, Texas was a 17-point favorite.
Yeah.
And I think we both felt pretty good about Texas.
I talked myself into it, and I hate that I did it.
Yeah. The vibe here in this game is that Texas had plenty of chances to take command and just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it. They had their chances. If you're a Texas fan, you're probably thankful for Bijan Robinson, who is so damn good.
Yeah.
And, like Jalen Ford's early interception was a big play. There were big plays here for Texas outside of Bijan Robinson, but he was kind of the steadying force in a game that, again, felt like it was there for them to really grab it and take command of it and put on ice early, and they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the Iowa State MO, is to sort of sit on the ball a little bit, sort of get teams out of a rhythm, take advantage of mistakes. Ultimately, it comes down to moments late. And Iowa State actually did. I've been sort of rough on the Clones this year for playing pickleball and not being able to sort of generate bigger plays, especially downfield, and limit themselves. But they succeeded downfield with Xavier Hutchinson. Jalen Knoll made plays, taking advantage of opportunities, of course. And Texas, you're right. They were unable to, from the start, from the onset of this game, were not able to take advantage, whether it was field position, whether it was third and shorts, whatever. Texas left a lot out on the field. But, man, that drop from Xavier Hutchinson.
Oh, that was so painful to watch.
Real painful. And then the fumble, and I know Iowa State fans are upset thinking it was targeting, but I don't believe it was targeting. It's a tough way to lose, to say the least, but good for Texas for surviving and winning a clunker. This was the exact kind of game, by the way, that Tom Herman would have lost, that later stage Mac Brown, or obviously Charlie Strong would have lost. So a win is better than a loss. From the beginning, it felt flat. right?
did.
There was so much energy with the Red River game, and there was something that just felt flat about this game. That like, ooh, this feels like a letdown win for the Clones, and it wasn't. So that's a double win.
Yeah, and real quick, just to put a bow on the Big 12, the West Virginia Baylor game was kind of nuts on Thursday night.
Yes, it
just
was.
like a ton of big plays, not a lot of defense.
No,
but a lot of big plays in this game. I put together a recap video right afterwards, and my thought was that West Virginia just beat itself a little less.
Yeah.
They beat themselves a little bit less. That was what gave them the margin here. Monster game for Gavin Holmes, your potentially problematic influencer.
Yeah.
Can neither confirm nor
just a name,
deny.
not any actions from Gavin Holmes. Just his name sounds like a potentially problematic influencer. Blake Shapen goes down hurt. No CJ Donaldson because of his injuries sustained earlier in the season, but Tony Mathis steps up. It was Caden Prather made play. Like it was a really fun back and forth. I don't think Baylor wins in Morgantown. That's like a thing. They just don't.
Yeah.
So West
All
Virginia,
right.
slow start, but 3-3. Very sneaky upset potential in the Big 12.
SEC, Kentucky beats Mississippi State 27-17. Ole Miss runs all over Auburn.
Yeah.
48-34. Arkansas 52, BYU 35.
You had that. You had it.
I did have that.
Yeah.
I did have the Hogs here.
Raheem Sanders. Yeah.
LSU 45, Florida 35, Georgia 55 to zip over Vandy. Let's talk about the Mississippi State game, Dan.
Yes.
Mississippi State offense was humming along before this game. What we saw last night, I believe, is what the Ghostbusters would refer to as a total protonic reversal.
Good job.
Kentucky clamped down, and Mississippi State did its usual disappearing act. And I think that's what drives me crazy about this team. Because just when it feels like you can start to get behind them and they start to build some momentum and we start talking on this show like they're good. They're a good team. Do not sleep on Mississippi State. Poof. You have a showing like this. 225 yards in total for the Bulldogs. Just 3 of 11 on third down. Just 22 rushing yards.
Yeah.
So credit the Cats defense for what they did, and credit the offense because Will Levis was back. He did play. He made the world of a difference here. I thought he looked pretty good. Christopher Rodriguez went for 196 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So
yes.
The Cats' rushing attack, which had been problematic early, seems to have leveled off to some extent here. I don't know what else to say about Mississippi State, but the disappearing act to me is just it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I imagine for them it is as well. Look, you're right. You credit the Kentucky defense, and the whole thing with the Mississippi State offense or the Mike Leach air raid is simplicity. It's find grass, throw to grass. And what Kentucky was able to do was confuse Will Rogers, to collapse the pocket against Will Rogers, to make him captain the overthink express and just holding onto the ball a little bit too long. And even against the run, where Mississippi State's been able to run the ball, Kentucky filled the lanes. It was a terrific performance from Kentucky. And you mentioned the performance of Chris Rodriguez, especially needed Tavion Robinson not available in this one. He's beat up.
Yep.
So in terms of Kentucky's ability to stretch the field, and I know Will Levis did make plays downfield, painful for you as a Penn Stater to watch Will Levis thriving?
To watch Will Levis thriving.
That ultimately
No.
James Franklin made the wrong call? I'm going Clifford over Levis. Because Levis didn't really show this in State College.
Well, they didn't use Levis like this. They used Levis like a bowling ball.
Right.
You know, they used him like a Tebow.
Yeah.
If Tebow could only run. I mean, he was like the belldozer of sorts for Penn State, to draw another old reference.
But to
from
not
college
see it in
football.
practice, to not see the potential.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're still into Sean Clifford.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful, nothing against Sean Clifford, that they'll get past that. But
Okay.
But no, I'm happy for Will Levis because all too often you have these transfers and it doesn't work out. I'm glad for him that it has. And hell, he could be a first-round draft pick. So good for him.
Yeah. Also Mississippi State had my favorite kind of interception, which is the seemingly uninterceptable quick screen of some kind. And they just jumped in the lane. A guy jumped in the lane on a tunnel screen and brought it all the way back. So I always enjoy that. Obviously,
Those are
not
fun.
enough. So a nice bounce back moment for Kentucky after losing to South Carolina with a backup quarterback in that manner.
448 yards on the ground for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I credit Auburn to this extent. They were down 21-0 in the first half. They fought back. This was a one-score game with about 9 minutes left. So they didn't give up. And if we are trying to read tea leaves, Brian Harsin may already be gone for all we know. It seems as if the writing is on the wall there, but the team did not give up in a matchup against a good team in Ole Miss. And so I at least credit the coaching staff and the players for keeping their heads about them and playing this one the full way through. If Ole Miss runs like this the rest of the way, that's a real problem for
big
teams.
if, but yeah, totally.
That's a big if, but that's a real problem.
Another impressive performance offensively. Yeah, they ran the hell. Even Jackson Dart in on the action, and a game well called by Lane Kiffin and future Notre Dame head coach Charlie Weiss Jr. So I don't know how you come away anything but impressed with where Ole Miss is as a program.
I don't really have much to add about Arkansas. A ton of points, a ton of stats here for KJ Jefferson, Raheem Sanders, Matt Landers, big wideout, had 3 touchdowns. They look pretty good.
Defense still isn't good, but that's okay.
It's okay. They are who they are. LSU, Florida.
This one was fun because I don't root for Florida or LSU. This one was fun for me, but yeah.
Why was this fun for you?
We got to watch Jalen Daniels look perfect, pretty much. And we got to see Anthony Richardson make a play in which LSU suggested tackles, but didn't actually. There was just so many bonkers plays in this game that I loved watching the back and forth nature of it. The Florida defense is not good. The LSU special teams situation is not good. But Anthony Richards' ceiling is quite entertaining. His floor, less entertaining. But with what LSU's receivers kind of finally ascended to in terms of, I don't know if it's our expectations or their potential, whatever, that was quite fun. This game is always bonkers and weird and always has huge plays, and I just enjoyed watching it. And I don't know who LSU is week to week, but when the LSU can run the ball and mount a complete offense in the manner that they did against Florida, they become a lot more dangerous. And I think I said Jalen Daniels. I meant to say Jaden Daniels. In my head, it was rattling around.
It is confusing that we have a Jaden and Jay Lun.
Yes, two very good quarterbacks at their peak. Yeah. But yeah, Jaden Daniels was very good, if not excellent in this game, especially in the red zone, in a hostile environment, in that pseudo rivalry. So yeah, it makes LSU more interesting. I mean, I know they have A&M, Ole Miss, and Bama left. Who else is on LSU's schedule?
I don't have it in front of me. But
Arkansas as well.
Yeah, but I think the point stands, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they can play this kind of offense, this brand of offense, there's a lot to like. Jaden Daniels did look pretty good in this game. He had 6 total touchdowns, 3 through the air, 3 on the ground. LSU's offense as a whole did some nice stuff in this matchup.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they sustained drives of 75, 73, 75, 83, 75, and 88 yards. Those are their 6 touchdown drives. So this is a program that trying to get this offense humming now, trying to get this thing going. It seems as if they've maybe figured some stuff out. It helps that the Florida defense isn't great right now.
No, the Florida defense
that also
isn't good.
helps,
Yeah.
but still, nonetheless, nice showing here. Let's talk about the Pac-12.
Let's
talk about Stanford 16, Notre Dame 14.
Hold on. Let me settle in for this one. Drink a little bit of tea.
Man. First off.
Yeah. By the way, bookended, by the way. Stanford's losing streak bookended by, I think, the Oregon win last year and the Notre Dame win this year. Nice little
Stanford
nature.
Stanford had lost 11 straight games to FBS teams. They were a 17-point dog in this game, which we didn't even mention in the preview show because it felt a little just weird.
Yeah.
We didn't have time because we had so many other high-level matchups to talk about. This one did not rise to that level, even though we have a lot of Notre Dame people that listen. Just didn't seem like it was as relevant. 17-point spread. Felt a little meaty to me. I didn't want to bet it. I don't like betting on my own team to begin with. But 17 points, Vegas was obviously pretty high on Notre Dame going into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still think that LSU might be interested in Tommy Rees, asking for a friend?
I think they're good.
Can we pass around the hat for the plane ticket?
Oh, man. How the mighty
Just
have
wondering.
fallen.
Just maybe put some feelers out if you know anybody in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Like, are you still maybe interested in Tommy Rees?
It's a tough. I mean, you can speak with more detail about this game, but I think the lasting image is the Stanford players being confused at the end of the game with how to behave after a win on the road. That was the confusing thing against a legit opponent. Notre Dame might not be good, but Notre Dame isn't some of the teams that Stanford has lost to.
It's not a tomato can. They're not a tomato can. Here's the thing, okay? Drew Pine was really bad in this game.
Yeah.
He was really bad in this game. He snaps the ball. He looks directly at Michael Mayer every play.
Only has eyes for you, Michael Mayer.
He will only throw it to Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
Or he'll at least look there until he has no other choice to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
But that is the offense right now. That is the way they have schemed this offense right now. So we did get to see Tobias Merriweather. No, what am I saying? It's early. We did get to see Tobias Merriweather.
Yes.
In this game. He caught a 41-yard touchdown pass on a post. It was great to see him out there. Instantly comes into the game and makes a difference. I don't know why it took this long for him to get some playing time, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not at practice. What do I know? Here's the thing, though. Pine was not good, but we've known this about him for a while now. We knew this about him last year.
Well,
we knew it about him. What?
I mean, just this year, you feel like he's quietly getting a little better. Like after the North Carolina game, after the BYU game, I started hearing the chirping.
Getting better does not imply good.
It's fair.
Okay. We've known this about Drew Pine for a good long time now.
Yeah.
All the way back in spring, I was talking about, I don't really like Drew Pine. I don't like their quarterback situation if Buckner goes down.
Yeah.
Okay. It is unfair to put this all on Drew Pine, though. It is unfair to put this all on Drew Pine because Drew Pine is limited. And seemingly the coaches who are with him at practice every day also know this because we know this from watching him one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they are still putting big chunks of this scheme on his arm seems problematic to me. It seems problematic that you would ask Drew Pine to go out there and win the game. All right. They can't run the ball. I don't know why they can't run the ball. It's still a problem. Maybe they're getting better. Maybe the line is congealing a little bit more now, to use a fancy word.
Mm-hmm.
But it still seems as if a lot of this is on the arm of Drew Pine, and I just don't think that's a good scheme. I don't. It's not like Brian Kelly left the cupboard bare, guys. They've recruited at a really high level now for the last decade. It's gotten better the closer we got to Kelly leaving for LSU.
Right.
There's a lot of talent on this team. So the fact that this offense looks this stagnant, looks this one note, is entirely dependent on Michael Mayer. On some level, look, I get it's a backup. But also, it's probably the coaching.
Yeah.
There's probably a coaching thing here that needs to be addressed. And I don't know if it's Tommy Rees. I don't know if it's still Marcus Freeman figuring things out. I don't know who to blame specifically for what we have seen from the Notre Dame offense. But if you are Marcus Freeman, you got to be looking at this, saying to yourself, this is on me.
Yeah.
If this thing goes down, it's on me. I'm the one that loses the job.
Right.
In a very public, very embarrassing fashion. So I don't know what he has to do to fix this. I would kind of be surprised if we see Tommy Rees back next year.
Wow.
Given the way things have gone.
Well, I mean, it's still a backup quarterback. It's not his fault specifically.
It's not his fault specifically, but it just does not feel like it's getting much better.
Do you think next year that Graham Mertz figures it out for Notre Dame? Maybe.
Well, that was going to be my question. Like,
Dylan Morris coming in? Dylan Morris?
Who is the transfer? Who is the transfer that Notre Dame can entice to come in to do its Lance Leipold bar rescue scenario?
Right.
Where they reinvigorate this offense with a little higher level quarterback play. I'm not convinced Buckner's the guy from the little bit we saw of him.
Yeah.
And granted, it was against pretty good competition. I'm not totally convinced on Buckner. And
Right.
certainly Pine should not be the guy moving forward. So they've got like a year to bridge before they get to CJ Carr. Maybe CJ Carr is good. I don't know what he'll do.
Dude, don't count on that.
Right.
Don't.
So,
that line of thinking is so brutal to be like, well, there's a 5-star who's going to be a freshman in 2 years. Like, don't do that.
And I'm not counting on it. I'm just saying that they're going to have some hard questions to address in the wake of all this. They're just not good. Their offense is really bad. And a lot of it might come down to the fact that they have to start Drew Pine.
Yeah.
But also a lot of it might fall squarely on Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman. You know, you're getting paid a lot of money to figure out what to do next. And it seems as if they're just doing the same thing over and over again. That's not good enough.
What number do you think Connor Bazelak will wear for Notre Dame?
Connor Bazelak's not going to transfer again, is he?
I don't know.
I guess he could.
I think I think Notre Dame is holding a job fair. I think Notre Dame is ready. Be like, Tate Rodemaker. Like, who's got eligibility and played a good quarter? We'll meet Hudson Card? Miller Moss? Ethan Garbers? Like, who has come in relief and is not going to win a starting job at a relatively big program? Like, there's some names out there.
They're sending some automated messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're sending some of those, just feelers, like, hey.
One accidentally went to Phil Dracovic. I'm like, oh, that's our bad. Sorry, Phil. Yeah, man. Tommy DeVito, Notre Dame.
Tommy DeVito?
No, he's in a good situation. He plays for
Tommy
a good
DeVito's
team.
in a pretty good spot. Yeah. Oh, man. Good win for Stanford, 16-14.
Yeah.
What a crap game. Ay. All right.
Oh,
Elsewhere
man.
in the
Cade
Pac-12.
McNamara.
What?
Cade McNamara, Notre Dame.
No, stop it. Washington beat Arizona. A ton of offense here. Michael Penix Jr., 516 through the air, 4 touchdowns, 49-39. We had Oregon State winning 24-10 over Wazoo, and Colorado gets its first win, 20-13 over Cal.
Okay. The Pac-12 was a weird. I mean, obviously we talked about USC, Utah, but it was a weird experience yesterday. What is going on with Cal? What is actually happening with the California Golden Bears? I tweeted this out that they haven't even fielded an average offense since Sonny Dykes left, let alone a decent one. Losing to Colorado is embarrassing. Sorry. This version of Colorado, who's already fired their coach, that doesn't have a quarterback, that lost all of its best players, it seems, on both sides of the ball to the portal, and have been a disaster this year, destined for 0-12. And Cal finds a way with the crazy drop in the red zone, the crazy catch from their own guy, I think Lemon. What an embarrassing turn of events for the California Golden Bears on a day where we were celebrating Bay Area football with Stanford making a comeback into the win column. An embarrassing display of defense in Washington, Arizona, but a highly entertaining display of offense. You mentioned Michael Penix, record-setting day for Washington. The receivers on both sides of this game were great. Arizona's still a ways away on defense, but apparently Washington continues to be a ways away on defense after that Arizona State loss last week. But they gave us an entertaining game, so I'll take it. UCLA and Oregon both on bye. Oregon State, a nice, comfortable win. I still don't think they have quarterback figured out, but quietly, the improved Beaver defense has been a really nice story. Washington State really struggled to get anything going on offense. Cameron Ward, a lot of mistakes, and had to throw the ball 40, 50 times, right?
Yeah, Wazoo's interesting because you do see the big play potential with Cameron Ward, but they're just too inconsistent otherwise,
I agree. But game day is going to Eugene for Oregon UCLA, which should be a really nice
week 8 looks really
really
good.
Pac-12 week 8. Yeah.
Let's close things out with the Big Ten, Dan.
Let's.
Illinois, baby. Woo!
ILL.
15th season doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is by far the earliest that the Drive for Six has ever been completed.
That's true.
It's never been completed by mid-October. Never.
No.
We've always been having this conversation, so we need a new mark. We need a new name, new alliteration here. Because if you're looking at Illinois, I'm just going to throw it out there. The 6-1, right?
Yeah.
Here's what's left on the schedule. I want you to stop me.
Please.
Stop me when I say a team that they're definitely going to lose to.
Okay.
Nebraska.
No.
Michigan State.
No.
Purdue.
No.
Michigan.
Yes.
Northwestern.
No.
10-2. Illinois, baby.
I'm not guaranteeing 10-2. I mean, they could lose to Purdue.
They could lose to any of those teams.
They could lose to any of those teams. Michigan State got a little bit healthier, and we can talk about that in a second, and beat Wisconsin in OT. But they are the most annoying kind of team to deal with. This is actually kind of representative of the back half of what Arkansas looked like. I want to say 2014 under Brett Bielema.
Yeah, just a pain in the friggin' ass every week.
Yeah.
And the defense is very good. The defense is absolutely legit.
Yes.
And you see them kind of steering into it because they're playing aggressively. They're going for it on fourth down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just have that confidence in their defense. Like, great. You get the ball with good field position. Try and move it on us. The Illinois Fighting freaking Illini.
Yeah.
6-1. I love it.
Ryan Walters, 2023 Colorado head coach. That's not crazy. He probably will be. Yeah, if they keep doing this, he's going to get legit interest. He's young. He runs an exciting brand of football on defense and has been the reason why they've turned it around so quickly under Brett Bielema. Chase Brown, maybe it's the drive to 50 carries in a single game for Chase Brown.
He had 41 in this game.
41. Minnesota on both sides of the ball. I mean, look, they're beat up on offense, but it really is now just like Mo Ibrahim and like the dropsies, right? It's just, there's not much at receiver there. The offensive line is pretty disappointing. The defense can't get anything right, it seems. Tommy DeVito, as much as, he has struggled at times, both at Syracuse and Illinois, it's pretty good. Pretty good for the Illini yesterday. Led quality drives.
He looked really good yesterday.
And when
good for him.
Minnesota came back a little bit, he then threw a haymaker right back at that, like led a nice drive. So I don't recommend punching the opposing team's starting quarterback like Illinois, I think, incidentally did. I think they were punching for a fumble, but that led to a pretty disappointing moment in which Tanner Morgan was injured. Disappointing in that I don't want Tanner Morgan to be hurt. And so we don't know what his future looks like. But even before then, the Minnesota offense was not really doing anything well consistently.
No, they struggled for most of the game against, a really good Illini defense.
I mean, another week, another W for Illinois.
Maryland knocked off Indiana 38-33.
Yes.
Talia got hurt.
Yep.
Got carted off in the fourth quarter with some sort of knee thing. Billy Edwards Jr., maybe get used to saying that name.
Mm-hmm.
He came in, went 0 for 3 passing, but had 53 big yards on the ground and the touchdown that put this one out of reach with about 2 minutes left. So Maryland now 5-2.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Very
Talia's
quietly.
okay,
Yeah.
but didn't look promising, that injury. 5-2 for Maryland, 38-33. They win on the road. Michigan State 34, Wisconsin 28, Dan, double OT.
Yes.
I locked up Wisconsin. I thought I had this one. I did not have this one.
Did not have it.
I did not have this one. Braylon Allen turned it over in overtime.
Yeah.
That led to a big Michigan State win here. I don't know how else to characterize it. They needed a win very badly. They get it in overtime. It would not be fair to put this all on Braylon Allen because of that turnover, because otherwise he had a pretty good game. He was like the reliable part of this Wisconsin offense. As somebody in our Verballer Discord aptly pointed out, the new coaching staff may not yet have solved the Graham Mertz problem.
No.
It's not the kind of thing that you cure overnight with a couple pills and a new coach.
Not a new coaching staff, to be clear. Just a coach who is now also the interim head coach.
That's correct. That's correct. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So it could just be that Northwestern is that bad that we got that kind of showing last week, the 299 5-touchdown game that I will refer to forevermore from Graham Mertz. But look, I credit Michigan State. I don't want to harp too much on Wisconsin. Michigan State fought this game the full way through. They were able to capitalize in the end and get the win in overtime. So they needed a big win here for Mel Tucker because it did give the impression that things were coming off the swivel a bit in East Lansing.
I thought Peyton Thorne looked a lot sharper. His connection with receivers was a lot sharper, obviously going to Jaden Reed in big moments. They were healthier on defense. They were able to apply more pressure than usual. They were able to stick to assignments better than usual. It's still an inconsistent Michigan State, an inconsistent Wisconsin with their own clear flaws, but nice to see Michigan State bounce back in a moment like this. Look, it's not I was going to say father's Wisconsin. It's not your very slightly older brother's Wisconsin defense. They've just taken a step back pretty much everywhere. Braylon Allen at his best is very good, but this Wisconsin team needs a lot to get back to what I think expectations are in Madison, whether it's portal, whether it's talent, whether it's just an off season to get everybody's heads right. They need a lot. And I think the story here, though, is Michigan State gutting out an impressive win after some pretty low moments when you look at, Washington and Ohio State and Maryland.
And finally, Purdue 43, Nebraska 37. Aiden O'Connell, nearly 400 yards passing.
Yeah, man.
4 touchdowns. Chuck Sizzle, Charlie Jones, 12 grabs, 132, 2 touchdowns. Purdue is 5-2. Purdue may be the best team in the Big Ten West. Very quietly, the most interesting division in college football. I have no idea who's any good in the Big Ten West.
You want to come out for Purdue, Illinois to see who decides it? Drive down to Champaign, get some Papa Dells?
I don't not want to.
I don't think
that actually could be a really fun game.
That will be a really fun game. I don't recommend coming to the land of Lincoln in mid-November. It's not going to be super pleasant. I don't want to drive down the freeway to Champaign. That was
so
a
you
complete
asked
joke.
me, and you're saying that's great. You
I
can go
regret
without
everything.
me.
Yeah, please take Kate and go to Champaign. Enjoy the sights and sounds and bovine population. I'm not there.
The bovine population. Yeah.
Illinois, Purdue appear to be the class of the Big Ten West.
Monster game, by the way, for Trey Palmer.
Yes, the LSU transfer.
The LSU transfer, right, for Nebraska, the receiver. 7 grabs, 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 1 rush for 60 yards. He had 297 total yards in this game. He had 344 yards all of last season. So getting all of his work in
what
one
about
evening here.
the Purdue running back, Maccabee?
Oh, yeah.
They haven't had a running game in years. No. And Maccabee runs hard, looks impressive, looks to be a nice little answer there. Not little, but an answer there at running back.
Purdue wins 43-37. Elsewhere, just very quickly here, I'm sure you have other games you want to rattle off.
Of course.
Georgia Southern takes down the Maddies of James Madison 45-38. So James Madison falls from the ranks of the unbeaten.
Yep.
By virtue of this loss to Georgia Southern.
Still may be the best. Old Dominion beat Coastal, so one of the best teams in the state of Virginia.
Yay.
Yeah.
Also, in the Dakota Marker rivalry game, South Dakota State knocks off North Dakota State 23-21.
2 against 1. Yeah.
Yeah, that one got a little bit of pub out there on Twitter. Folks were talking about that one as well. Any other games here that you want to call out quick before we get to Doodle Alerts?
Yeah, I mentioned ODU. Old Dominion takes down Coastal Carolina, not close. 49-21 final. Some bounce back action. Southern Miss, a quietly interesting season. They take down Arkansas State. We had somebody lock up, I think, Western Kentucky against Middle Tennessee on our Tie versus the World segment, and somebody take Georgia Southern. Both of them came through, of course. Any other specific action? Fresno won a game, so there's that. They beat
17-10.
They beat San Jose State, who's been pretty good with Siobhan Cordero, 17-10. Air Force laid the lumber against UNLV. New Mexico State in the New Mexico Challenge. I don't know what that game is called. 21-9. Utah State, who has been disappointing. They take down Colorado State, who has been very disappointing. Hawaii has not been good, but they take down Nevada, who is sort of behaving like an FCS team at this moment. Elsewhere I saw that who did UCF absolutely murder?
Yeah,
Temple, 70-13. John Rice Plumlee went just ham.
Ballistic.
He went off.
Yeah.
SMU Navy was a fun back and forth. Navy stormed back to try to make it a game late, but couldn't survive SMU and Tanner Mordecai. Tulane, as our caller mentioned, 6-1, a very quiet 6-1, but they take down not a good South Florida team, but a South Florida team who I think ultimately is going to finish the season with a reputation as being difficult. How about that? ECU wins a 4-overtime thriller against Memphis. Seth Hennigan and Holton Ahlers putting on a show. Anywhere else, Ty, in the MAC? Did you see Kent State goes up 28-7 and then just gets demolished by Toledo? What is happening in the MAC?
45-3, they got outscored or something
like that. Yeah. Ohio
Good
weirdly
Lord.
won a game. They've been pretty bad. Buffalo continues to look solid. They take down UMass. Ball State takes down UConn, who, by the way, is 3-5. Not for nothing. UConn's 3-5. Competitive game, but Akron and Joe Moorhead go down to Central Michigan. Like Frank Harris did really well on Friday night, and I mean FIU's bad. UAB gets to 4-2. They take down Charlotte, who moves to 1-6 and has not won in Conference USA. We mentioned Western Kentucky, another impressive performance. This one against Middle Tennessee, which, by the way, does not feel good if you're a Miami fan to see Middle Tennessee struggle. Still winless in Conference USA. North Texas comfortably takes down Louisiana Tech. FAU and Willie Taggart take down a resurgent Rice squad.
That's right. Yeah. What fresh hell is going on in the MAC this year?
I have no idea.
Lord. All right. Well, thank you to one and all for downloading, listening, supporting the show.
Yes.
We appreciate it very, very much. We didn't even do our normal promotional stuff at the top of this show to tell you to subscribe, to follow on social media, to do all that jazz, because we just had too much to get into. If you want to support the show, if you want to vote in the poll, we've had a lot of people sign up. They want to vote in the poll every Sunday morning, going out to verballers.com. Credit to our guy, Shay, again, for putting those reverbs together. Credit and a big thank you, a warm and hearty thank you to to everybody who's been watching along live as we record this show.
Yes.
On a Sunday morning, just grabbing a few out of the bag here. Beat U of A, we have Kale, we have Warner, we have Ken P, one of the OGs
legend.
Here. Wilfrid Wilkinson.
Mhm.
I don't believe that's a real name, but close enough.
I hope so.
We have Nick, we have Philip, just thank you to everybody for chiming in here along in the chat. For many others who are watching who aren't chatting, we appreciate your support here over at verballers.com. Should we get to Doodle
Let's get some dudes.
Who do we got?
Trey Palmer, Dalton Kincaid, Gavin Holmes, Jalen Hyatt, I was going to say Wyatt, Quentin Johnston, of course, Michael Penix going for 5 Bills plus against Arizona, which you kind of should do. Chris Rodriguez manning the tank. No, that doesn't sound right.
Manning the tank.
Manning the offense for Kentucky in a winning effort. Devin Maccabee, who I just mentioned. Raheem Sanders at altitude for Arkansas, paving the way with a $175 and a couple touchdowns. 11.7 yards per carry, by the way. You'll take it. You'll absolutely take it.
You'll take that.
Hendon Hooker, of course, has to be mentioned. Cam Rising, an absolute dude, putting the team on his back with Dalton Kincaid. So co-dudes there. I don't know. Everybody on Oklahoma. Eric Gray was sensational on the ground. I think that's sort of it for me. How about that?
That sounds good. Look, we appreciate everybody's feedback throughout the course of the day.
Oh, and Shaken Blake, by the way. Not my nickname, but I appreciate it. Shaken Blake
I got
from
the dog
Michigan.
barking in the background here, just as she did when we closed out the episode on Thursday, the preview show, excuse me.
Yes.
It was the kind of episode that gets the animals howling, that
That's
gets
true.
people in the house howling, right? It was an exciting week of college football, to say the least. Week 7 now in the books. Thank you so much for downloading, for listening, for playing along at home. Your support means a lot to us. If you like the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and tell your friends to do so as well. We will be back in just a few short days, talk more college football. In the meantime, follow us wherever you can. Keep supporting, keep telling your friends about the show, and as always, stay solid.
Peace.